Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is April 19th. There's a lot going on. I'm going to do my best to try to distill it for you, but I may fail miserably at that because, again, there's so much going on from so many different directions, but I will certainly do my best. I want to start today with a little bit of history. Sometimes you need to go back in time to fully understand why we find ourselves where we are at this particular time. So I'm going to touch on a couple of events which may seem unrelated, but are in fact integral to what's going on and what we're doing. I believe it. I think I just misspoke. It's the 16th. I said the 19th. I got something going on the 19th. Maybe that's what's going on in my head, but it's the 16th, so I stand corrected on that. So let's get back to a little bit of history here. The first date I want to bring up is 1988. Seems like an arbitrary and unrelated date, but that was the beginning of a global transition financially called Basel compliance. Very simply, what this means is that the Western nations and the Western central banks and most of the larger countries on the globe were operating with something called fiat currency. It means their currency was based on the full faith and credit of the government, a rather arbitrary determination. And in 1988, they established Basel compliance. Basel compliance is a 5-phased program where these nations and their central banks were transitioning from fiat-based currencies, again, currencies based solely on the full faith and credit of the government, to commodity-backed currencies. So the value of a currency in a given country would be based on the known natural resources within that country and the ability of that country to bring those resources to market. Now, the reason this is important for us is because those of us that purchase dinar, we purchase other currencies as well, but those of us, I'm talking specifically about the dinar, purchased the currency when it was in a program rate, knowing that Iraq was in fact per square mile one of the richest countries in the world. So when we go to the bank to exchange our dinar, we'll be exchanging it for what it's actually worth based on Basel compliance. And again, Iraq arguably could be per square mile the richest country in the world. So we purchase the currency for next to nothing, and we will exchange it for a rather substantial amount. And that's where the windfall is. Again, how did we find ourselves in a position to purchase the Iraqi dinar in a program rate? That's because in 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait and was, within a couple of years or less, removed by a coalition of forces headed by the United States. And when Iraq was removed, their currency, which at the time was worth $3.22 each dinar, went into a program rate, making it basically worthless. Another important date is 2001. This was the year that the United States sponsored China for entry into the World Trade Organization. So remember these dates: 1988, the planet is shifting from fiat-based currencies to commodity-backed currencies. 1990, Iraq is forced into a program rate and has spent 30 plus years trying to recover. As a result, in 2001, China enters the World Trade Organization sponsored by the United States and begins, contrary to everything we've discussed, to artificially devalue their currency. So that's kind of the background of where we're going. Now let's fast forward to the Trump administration in 2025. Donald Trump is what's referred to in the private sector as a rainmaker. That's a person that makes things happen, that gets the job done. Now the problem domestically is, for a lot of complicated reasons I don't want to get into, but nearly half of the political class doesn't want to get the job done. I'm not going to, again, get into all of the specifics, but even someone that just casually pays attention, they're pretty much aware of the fact that Trump is a mover and shaker, and a lot of people, for whatever reason, seem to like the status quo. And what he's doing that's important for us is that he's forcing both China and Iraq, in the case of China, to adjust their currency, and he's forcing Iraq to reinstitute their currency. He's doing this through instituting a global tariff system. What is a tariff? A tariff is a duty or a custom placed on a country in order for them to import their goods to a given country. Now, for decades, globalists have used unfair trade practices, forcing the United States to operate with trade deficits. Trump plans to erase all of that through his tariffs. Let me explain how he's done that. I want to make the case for the tariffs because it not only affects this country, our purchasing power, but those of us that have currencies. In my opinion, this is the last shoe that had to drop to force Iraq to reinstitute their currency. Now, President Trump has been talking a long time about a new golden age. Well, what does he mean by new? What he's actually alluding to is our first golden age. I've mentioned this in the past. This is a period roughly between 1880 and 1910. Now, this was a time when we had no Federal Reserve or federal income tax, and it was a period of great wealth for the United States. So much so that that period of time was actually referred to as the Gilded Age. But the wealth that the United States acquired and its citizens was acquired externally through tariffs, not internally through taxes. So what's Trump's plan? Basically, first, reciprocal tariffs on approximately 170 countries that have placed tariffs on our products. The goal here, of course, is to create an equal playing field and generate wealth for our nation. Second, to eliminate all tariffs on products if those countries build their plants in the United States. So this, of course, helps to create jobs, makes our country much more self-sufficient. Two areas of importance would probably be pharmaceuticals and computer chips, things of that nature. Now, there's already a conga line of countries lining up to build plants in this country in order to avoid the tariffs. Now, the third thing, indirectly related, was the creation of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, to audit the Federal Reserve and federal expenditures. Objective was to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. But I think the long-term objective, one that I think will be accomplished in Trump's second term, is the elimination of the Federal Reserve, the third central bank of the United States, created all the way back in 1913. Trump wants to return to interest-free money, people's money, pursuant to Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. Trump is also bringing wealth and prosperity back to the country by, again, controlling tariffs. Now, people argue that tariffs create inflation, and they're wrong on two counts. First, inflation can be avoided by simply purchasing the domestically produced product. Second, the very people that argue that tariffs are inflationary are people on the political left. These are the very same people that want to increase corporate taxes, which of course increases the price of all goods and services produced domestically. Now, if Trump is successful, what he will end up having done is brought manufacturing back to the United States and end the hollowing out of our industrial base since the end of World War II. Now, it was the globalist left that intentionally created our problem to basically weaken the United States, in fact, try to create a third world nation. And they hate Donald Trump precisely because he's about to fix that problem. So, the value of tariffs from our perspective is not just that it's going to increase our purchasing power in the United States, return manufacturing to the United States, but it's going to disallow China from continuing to run these massive trade surpluses with us by artificially devaluing its currency, and it's going to enforce countries like Iraq to reinstitute their currency in order to avoid the loss to them through the tariffs. It's kind of complicated, it seems convoluted, but it's the way the system works, and Donald Trump understands the system, and therefore he knows how to manipulate it. So what we can expect to continue is Trump's resetting the global trade system through tariffs. He's going to shut down China's unfair trading system. Believe it or not, this tariff system could actually force Iran to stand down and leave Iraq alone. And of course, that's the last domino that has to fall in order for Iraq to then reinstitute. And the tariffs placed on Iraqi products will further force Iraq to substantially increase the value of their currency. Now, this could happen very, very quickly. Once a given country understands the implications of the tariff, they have to move quickly to circumvent the bleeding in their own country. And again, the two countries that I am paying most attention to are China, because of how that's going to affect us domestically, all of our citizens, and Iraq, because how that's going to dramatically affect those of us that hold currencies. Now, phase one, for those of us that have currencies, is to patiently wait for the Iraqi dinar to reinstitute and revalue. And some of us have had currencies for a great number of years. We know that the dance in Iraq has been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's a complicated situation in Iraq. It's a complicated situation in the Middle East. The global transition through Basel has been complicated as well. And then there are the geopolitical issues of the United States as a superpower, dealing with Russia, dealing with China, and then, bad players like Iran. But if we hold the dinar, and I would argue some of these other currencies, an argument can even be made that the dong could hit very shortly after the dinar, simultaneous to the dinar, or even before the Iraqi dinar. So this is all happening despite the fact we've been waiting all this time. This could all happen very, very quickly in the near future. Phase 2 of all of this is to protect this wealth. And the fact of the matter is that 3 out of 4 windfalls are gone within 5 years. due to inexperience, mismanagement, and theft. And the way to avoid that is to place your currencies in trust. LLCs won't protect you. Sub-S corporations won't protect you. Limited family partnerships won't protect you. Revocable statutory, meaning state-by-state trusts, won't protect you. But our trust package will protect you. It's a national package. It's a common law trust. It's valid in all 50 states. Provides, in my opinion, the best asset protection available. There are also a lot of other benefits. For example, by establishing the trust, you preserve your privacy and your anonymity. You operate with your Social Security number. The trust operates with an EIN number. The information within that trust is sealed. Unless you've actually defrauded someone, it's impossible for anyone to find out what's even in the trust. The trust will allow you to avoid personal IRS scrutiny because the business activities occur within the trust. We've even established within the trust package a gifting subtrust. So it will allow you to gift currencies to family and friends, avoid the federal gift tax, but allow you control of the post-RV proceeds. And there are a lot of individuals who are hesitant to gift currencies to family and friends because they feel for whatever reason that they're incapable or unable to manage the post-RV proceeds, but this trust will allow you to do just that. This trust will also allow you to avoid the cost and delay in public disclosure of probate and the federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as much as 55% of your estate, in excess of $12 million. So you would completely avoid that. The trust will also allow you to avoid the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What this means is that once you have transferred these currencies to the trust, irrespective of what they're worth post-RV, you can only be sued for the value of the currency at the time you transfer them out of title to the trust, not the post-RV value. And post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop-loss. This is accomplished through segregation of assets. What this means is as you purchase assets, homes, cars, boats, etc., you place each of them in their own separate subtrust, meaning that if someone attempts to sue you post-RV because they're aware of your wealth, of course a suit would have to be based on some claim. So if the claim involved, say, the home or a car, a person was renting a property, they slipped and hurt themselves, or you were in a car accident or a boating accident, the only asset that would be involved in the litigation would be that single asset, because all of the assets are segregated in separate sub-trusts, which under the law are separate legal persons, not involved in the litigation in question. So for those of us that have currencies, I think we're going to be rewarded for our long wait. The return might be substantially higher than we had anticipated, and I think given the amount of time some of us have waited, this is very good news. But to really do this right, you're going to need to establish your trust and assign the currencies on paper to the trust before they revalue. And time is kind of running short. So there's really nothing much more to say other than the fact that in addition to all the progress being made in Iraq, and I could have gotten into all of that, but you can talk to just about anybody to get that information. What's important, in my opinion, is what's been going on in this country. And the tariffs are bringing the wealth back to the United States in a general sense. But for those of us that have currencies, they're forcing the hand of these other countries to reinstitute their currencies and to return to a Basel IV compliant rate. And of course, for those of us that have purchased these currencies in a program rate, we're going to go to the bank, we're going to exchange it, we're going to have a windfall profit. And if the currencies have been assigned to the trust, you will have protect it and preserve that wealth. As a matter of fact, no one will even know that you possess it, and that's probably the best single way to protect it. Now, I will go to Q&A in a moment, but for those of you that have not done so, I would strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package with regard to our trust package. The package does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to assist you. If you decide to proceed, and only if you decide to proceed, everything you need is in the package. Now, to get that initial package, and again, it has a lot of information about us, about trusts, about the currencies, and everything that's going on currently. If you'd like to get that initial no-obligation package, you can contact us either by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. Again, that's 307-274-4122. Now, I am going to go to a Q&A here if we have any questions. Again, I'll just give you that contact information one more time as I see if there are any questions for today. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. Our Q&A session is open. There don't seem to be any questions. That's fair enough. I hope the information we've provided has been helpful. I hope if the things we've discussed are of interest, you'll contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. And just as I'm about to sign off, we get someone in the Q&A. We get a lot of people in the Q&A. Our first caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you think this is going to be delayed any longer? I mean, how much longer can they delay? It seems like it's going to happen. It keeps getting pushed back.
Well, as I said, Iraq's MO seems to be 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. They cannot continue to delay this much longer because they're risking failed nation state. Remember, they've signed a lot of contracts to rebuild their infrastructure, their electric grid, their roads and water systems. They've entered into currency swaps with other countries. The other countries have done all of these things with the Memorandum of Understanding, and there's a drop-dead date here. So this thing's got to happen pretty soon or Iraq's going to have a problem. And I refuse to believe that Iraq, Sudani, the United States, Trump, and everyone that's involved has done all of this just to let this thing fall to the wayside. So I'm anticipating, and remember, I've mentioned this in the past too. I was involved in the Kuwaiti dinar. About 2 or 3 weeks before the Kuwaiti dinar reinstituted, the CBI released a public statement saying it would take at least another year. So a lot of times they do these head fakes because they don't want to give speculators a shot at a date and a rate. So this thing is going to happen, just one day it'll just happen. And that's the way these things tend to happen. So this is where we are right now. I'm to the point now where when I get up in the morning, I check right away because I know it could have happened. So this is where we find ourselves, in my opinion. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Certainly. Our next caller is area code 760. That's 760.
Hello, Jim?
Yes.
Yes. My question is, I have the package, but I had a couple pages missing. I have been trying to contact, but I haven't had any contact. I need the sheet that's missing where I can sign my currency to the trust.
Okay, that's the currency assignment form. That should be one of the supplemental documents. It's not in the trust. It's one of the attachments. But I'm writing down your phone number right now. I'm going to look you up in our email, and I'm going to see. If for some reason the assignment form wasn't included, I will get it to you. If it's there, I will text you or call you, and I'll let you know that it's there, and I'll tell you where you can find it, okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Certainly. You too, sir. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Well, that's our last caller for today. Usually there's a lot of calls, but that's fine. Again, you do have our contact information. The things we've discussed are important to you. Please send us an email or call us by phone. We'll be happy to get our package out to you. I would suggest you move quickly because time is short. But again, thanks so much for listening to the call. Our next call is next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week, and let's hope that this thing's over very, very shortly. Take care now. Bye-bye.